Pep Guardiola is doing Pep things. He's changing. He's putting centre-backs in midfield. He's playing with 4 centre-backs. He's just, at this time of the season, he just turns the genius cog on. But in the Champions League, a little less so. And they'll come up against Real Madrid. Before we get into this treble talk, yes, City fans, I know you believe you're going to win the treble. Cool, well done. But let's talk about Pep Guardiola. We know he's a genius, but how much of a genius is this guy right now?
I mean, he's pretty much a genius. I mean, putting John Stones in midfield has to be one of the greatest things I've probably actually seen this season. I mean, you would never have thought about it, but who would think about doing that? And he was very open about how Kyle Walker couldn't do that role, and it's just been a revelation for Manchester City. And I think that where Pep has also been criticised in the past about over-pepping, tinkering, I think he's taking that cautious approach in the Champions League, but he's doing it in the Premier League, and he's made this 1 or 2 adjustment. Obviously, we're seeing, Haaland the other night, his combinations with Kevin De Bruyne, just unbelievable. And then you also have to look at Rodri, Ruben Dias. The other night against Arsenal, I think it was 65 passes Ruben Dias made. And, also can switch it up to the long ball. He brings the ball forward. John Stones is in midfield, and you can't catch... There you go, I got so excited. You can't catch... You caught that. You can't catch Rodri because everyone's then focused on John Stones. And then Rodri is allowed to be the best he can possibly be. So when I look at this Pep side, and everyone was saying how it's probably not the best Pep side that we've seen, and, this Manchester City side isn't what it was, I think it's better than ever. The way that they absolutely dispatched of Bayern Munich, that was probably the best game of football I've seen in a very, very long time. That was a real purist moment for me.
Yeah, he's the football purist. He is the greatest manager we've ever seen. And I know people point to Alex Ferguson, people can point to managers in the past, if you look at Paisley, if you look at Shankly, but he is the greatest football manager we have ever seen. There's a reason why you go and watch Averley in non-league and the goalkeepers are passing out the back. He's changed the face of English football, he's changed the face of global football. He is an absolute genius. And if you look at Pep Guardiola, just in terms of league titles, there's only 3 managers in football that have taken titles off Pep Guardiola. That's Jurgen Klopp, that's Jose Mourinho, that's Antonio Conte. And his whole time as being a manager, he is absolutely incredible. And the way that he gets his sides to play, the way that he tunes his sides up, he's even admitted it himself. In August, September, October, they're just finding their feet. When it gets to business end of the season, there's nobody more clutch when it comes to league football. Champions League's a different matter, but league football, Pep Guardiola is absolutely incredible. And then you look at his coaching tree, and you look at the managers that come off of him. Vincent Kompany ran away with the championship, learned under Pep Guardiola. Xavi, top of La Liga, Pep Guardiola disciple. You look at Eric Ten Hag, who was that
Arteta.
You look at he has his fingerprints all over world football. He's an absolutely incredible man. He was a decent player. He was a very, very good player, but if you look at him as a manager and you look at the influence, you look at the way that remember when he came to England and everyone was like, you can't play the style of football in England. He was like, watch this. Had a season off when he first came to kind of understand it, and then he went and got 100 points. He's an absolute joke, and I don't think there's enough superlatives to talk about how much he has changed football and how different football would look if he wasn't around. And he's done it in different countries. He's done it in Spain, he's done it in Germany, and now he's doing it in England. And you can level the criticism that he's always had the keys to Ferrari. He's had the best teams in the world, but there's a reason why he's had the best teams in the world, because he is the best manager. And until he leaves England, I think it's going to be a procession for Man City in terms of winning league titles.
I think that on that point of he's got all the resources, he does, but he's also the best at using the resources, and that's a skill set that not many managers do have. Jack Grealish last season was a £100 million player. Even halfway through this season, people were saying he's not the guy, and now people are looking at him going, he's the best winger in the world. And so that's the Pep effect. And I think what's been very interesting this season is he's openly adapting his style. He openly said he watches Brighton De Zerbi, and that's how they now play out. But then equally, he's now leaning on different players. Ruben Dias, as you mentioned, 11 long passes against Arsenal. They've now changed the way they play, so they're more dangerous in Champions League football. They don't need to play 65 passes before a goal. Yeah. They can go direct. They actually just went direct against Arsenal. They lured them into this fake transition and then hit it long, the 1-2 up top, and they've got killers going forward. But then equally, against Bayern Munich, he lent on Rodri. He said they're gonna keep De Bruyne quiet. De Bruyne was drifting right and left. Haaland was up against Upamecano, so he said, Rodri, you go and be the player who plays the passes. 9 progressive passes in that game. I think he's got to a point where you go, if we stop this guy and if we stop this guy, they're still going to do this other thing. Yeah. And that is now the new version of Pep. I think this is the most adaptable his team has been. Yeah. And that's where I come to this treble talk. because they're going in the Champions League against Real Madrid, who are purely a vibes team. I'm saying that from personal experience. They are purely vibes. But they have this thing where they can not have to turn up and still win football matches. Yeah. Manchester City, on the other hand, they've now got this thing, I think. They could also not really have to turn up but still win the football match. Is the treble talk for real this time?
Yeah, I think it's for real. I mean, just looking at how they've come on, I'd say since kind of February time, they are hitting that peak City domination, dark destroyer mode. And they're just unstoppable. Like I mentioned earlier, you know, that Bayern game, that should have been closer than it was. This is Bayern Munich we're talking about, you know, and they just completely swept them aside. They were unbelievable. Arsenal the other night, they've been playing unbelievably all season. Arsenal, you know, you thought this is going to be a real game.
Just shut them down.
Absolutely nothing there. And look, it's tough to win the Champions League. They know that. Real Madrid, they've always been, you know, tough for Liverpool. And I think it will be a tough game. And I think it will be a real testament to see what Pep does in this game. I'm very actually looking forward to seeing how Pep does this. I hope he doesn't over-Pep it. But just keep doing what you're doing. And I think the way that he's just adapted that team, you know, someone like Manuel Akanji, just everywhere. He can play in any position, go out wide. He's so comfortable playing in this side. Jack Grealish, you mentioned. You know, everyone thought, oh, he's been an absolute flop at Manchester City. He hasn't. It just takes time to embed yourself in this Manchester City side. And now he's incredible. Look at how progressive he is with the ball. Yeah. Just incredible. And I think that the treble is on. You know, I know Manchester United fans won't like to hear that. And of course, they have a say whether or not they can stop that.
Oh, they would love to stop that.
With the FA Cup.
Last competitive game.
But at that point, Manchester City may have potentially already run the Premier League.
Yeah.
You know, by the time that comes around, and the excitement of that, you know, the confidence they'll have from that, from coming behind and chasing all the way and then still getting there if they manage to do it, going into that FA Cup.
Yeah.
I don't know, United fans, but you got to be careful.
I just think with Pep Guardiola in this Man City side, it's like, it's no vibes, it's no sauce, it's just cold, clinical, calculated dominance. And this is not the most dominant City side in terms of possession, but it's definitely the most dangerous. And they, like Nubaid said, they allow teams to have possession and then they hit you on the counter-attack. And then when you've got Kevin De Bruyne, who's emblematic of what Pep Guardiola wants in football players. Not too much personality, but does the job and is versatile, can play in so many different positions. And then you've got Erling Haaland, who's a generational talent. There is no real stopping this Man City team. And I always see that teams that go on to win, especially English teams that go on to win the Champions League, they're not perfect. If you look at United 07-08, even though the names are incredible, you look at Tevez, Rooney, Ronaldo, you had in midfield, you had Scholes, you had Carrick, and you had Vidic and Ferdinand as the linchpins at the back. They weren't a perfect United team. They got pushed to the last game of the season by Abraham Grant's Chelsea. But what they were dangerous in moments, and they took those moments. And you see Ronaldo scoring important goals. You see Rooney popping up with important assists. And that's what you need to be if you want to go and win the Champions League. You've got to be a team of moments. And this is what that Man City team can do. You look at Real Madrid over the last 5, 6, 7 years. They're not the best footballing side. They obviously can play incredible football with the midfield of Kroos and Modric, but they take their moments, and that's what Benzema did last season. I think that's what Man City are en route to doing, especially with Erling Haaland up top. This is an incredible City side who are about to win 3 Premier League titles in a row, and I think are on the brink of winning the treble.
The Bruyne point is really interesting, because I think if you watch De Bruyne from years gone by, he's very involved in the game. I think Pep's actually said to him, go play as high as you like with the freedom of the park, because you are the most dangerous player in the Premier League. With whether you're playing against West Ham away or whether you're playing against Liverpool at home, you can kill any team going. And it shows from the touches. He's actually having less touches this season than last. Last season, 74.3 per 90, now 67.8. So he's a little bit less involved, but now his involvement is so high up the pitch. The goals against Arsenal, it reminded me of like, it's the big and little strike partnership. The big man holds it up, the little man's quick and he's aggressive. That has obviously helped. And then you have someone like Jack Grealish who just doesn't give the ball away. He attracts so many players into his area. And then, as you said, they're very cold. They're very... I think De Bruyne said after the Arsenal game, we just keep the emotion in check. Yeah. He was like, we don't get too emotional. We're just emotional enough. Yeah. And that is a frightening thing to say. So if you're Real Madrid, you're sat there going, they were not that bothered about this Champions League final.
And also, if you take your mind back to 2020, obviously before lockdown happened, when Man City went to Real Madrid, Kevin De Bruyne played as a false nine,
Yes.
and he crashed it on Real Madrid. This is a man that can play in any position. This is a man who I've been saying for the last couple of years is the greatest centre midfielder the Premier League has ever seen. He's just so versatile, and him being the linchpin and him being the man that everything is built around, the only player in the City squad that predates Pep Guardiola, he is the driving force behind why Man City are going to win this. He doesn't get too emotional. I saw at the full-time whistle against Arsenal, my man looked like he'd just been playing five-a-side. He didn't care. Like, they don't get too emotional. Haaland brings that emotion, and he is kind of that emotional driving force for Man City. But Kevin De Bruyne is the man that everything orbits around at Man City. And if you've got a player like that in the team who can turn up in big moments, a big game player. I think people don't talk about how big of a game player he was last season. 4 goals against Wolves in the crunch. This season, an important goal and a few assists, or 2 goals and assists against Arsenal. The fact that they've got him in the team and he's so central to what they do, I think it's going to be very, very difficult to stop Man City winning the treble.
They're also in this position where they're not conceding many goals either. In the last 7 games, they haven't conceded over 1 XGA, which essentially means they don't concede goals. They have the best forward who's nearly got 50 goals this campaign. He's going to break the record. They've got the best number 10. They've got the best holding midfielder. The treble seems inevitable.
Yeah, I mean, the treble does. I think defensively, if you look at the beginning of the season, they weren't quite there. And I don't know, I always think to myself at the beginning of the season, what are City doing, what are they working on? But it takes a while, as we spoke about, to kind of get cooking. But once
they just let everyone else
they
catch
get
up.
hot, yeah.
Everyone else get a lead, then we'll catch you up.
We have seen this so many times. I mean, how many times have Liverpool had a head start of like 10 points and then City just pop up around Feb and are like, hello, like we're here. And I think that they just do it perfectly. They know how to win this league. And that's the thing, when you've won it so many times in so many different ways, obviously it's granted against a different opposition this time, but you know, it still stands. They know how to get the job done. And I think defensively, he does love to tinker, takes this one out, takes that one out. They've had some injuries, but as I mentioned earlier, I thought Akanji, what a signing that's been for them. Nathan Ake, brilliant season.
Well, also, like, he's dispelling like these myths as well. Everybody screams Bundesliga tax. Look at the players that Man City have signed for Bundesliga: Erling Haaland, Gundogan, Akanji, Kevin De Bruyne. People want to scream about how much flops Kai Havertz and Jadon Sancho are. Every time Man City and Pep Guardiola sign a player from Bundesliga, it seems to work.
Comes back to the resources thing.
does.
We're saying, like, he may have the best resources, he also utilises them the best way possible. Very quickly, quick answer. If they do complete the treble, is it greater than Manchester United's treble?
Yeah, because I think the Man United team won the treble, with 79 points winning the Premier League. They got very lucky. When you win these competitions, you have to get lucky. But in the FA Cup against Arsenal, obviously Arsenal missed a penalty. Man United go the other way and score a goal. And that Man United, and in the Champions League final, they got very lucky against Bayern Munich as well. It was a couple of last-minute goals. That Man United team went on to do very good things. They went on to win 3 Premier League titles in a row. This is a culmination. This is Man City's 3rd title in a row if they do win the Premier League. It's a Man City team that have been in the Champions League final over the last couple of years. And so I think that if they do win a treble with Erling Haaland and Kevin De Bruyne and Pep Guardiola, I think it would be greater than Man United's treble in '99.
God, the United fans are going to come for you after that. My God.
You're next.
Yeah, look, I think that obviously both are an unbelievable achievement if I'm sitting on the fence. But
You're not allowed
I'm
to.
getting off the fence.
This is the football forecast. You have to get off the fence.
It's a brilliant achievement for anyone to do, even if you win the double, even if you win a trophy. You know, it's a great achievement. Hopefully I might see that one. But I genuinely think it will be unbelievable if they do that, especially from coming behind in the league to do that. When Arsenal have dominated the entire time, if they win the league, unbelievable again. If they beat United, how good will that feel for City fans? Not for me, for City fans. And also, you know, to go and beat Madrid, it's there for the taking. And I think that you have to put serious credit on what they've done. They brought in Erling Haaland to go and do these things, to win the treble, to win the Champions League, and it'd be completely justified. I mean, it is justified anyway, but it'll be even more justified. And teams like Chelsea, who probably could have got him.
Yeah. Is it greater? Is it greater than Man United's treble?
It will be greater than Man United's treble.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.